Welcome to another episode of Chat Sports Talk. You don't know, my name's Chat. Take a time for sports. And welcome to the NFL Week 3 pick game preview video, where I run down the whole slate of NFL action for the week and give you my in-depth knowledge of these games and go who I'm going to pick as the winner. And if you've seen my other 2 weeks, I have not been good. I've consistently lost 8 games. That's a good thing. But before we get into that mayhem and chaos, if you could, go ahead and smash that thumbs up for me, especially like the content provided. Really pleases you two guys. Really help promote this channel out. You also subscribe. A lot of you guys review my work. I love you all for doing that. Now, you subscribe. This costs you a dime. Helps me provide more type of value for you. All right, last week I actually went 8-8. The Thursday night game and the early Sunday action, I was terrible. I only got 2 wins out of that. It was the afternoon games and the matinees that I was able to save that week. There's a lot of the reasons behind that. There's a few teams that should have been performing better than what they did that have not. Case in point, Cincinnati. I think Carolina is another one that hasn't performed well, and Indianapolis. I mean, those are some teams that, I think people expected more out of them. But it's only 2 weeks in the season. In week 3, you will probably see a lot of games where it's a do-or-die situation for them. Because it's a little hard when you drop to 0-3 and 0-4 to have a successful season. Very, very few teams have actually made to the playoffs starting that bad. But let's go ahead and kick off with Thursday Night Football on Prime Video in a AFC North clash between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cleveland Browns out there in First Energy Stadium. As right now, Mitchell Trubisky is still the starter for the Steelers, even though I think there's a growing sentiment from the fan base to bring Kenny Pickett. And Cleveland had that ultimate letdown at the end of the game versus the Jets when they ended up losing. And they probably should have won. But right now, Cleveland, I think there's too many weapons on that Cleveland. I mean, Jacoby Brissett is a decent quarterback. He has Amari Toomer as his star receiver. He has Chubb in the backfield running. I mean, not to mention Cleveland defense, we have Myles Garrett and Jarvis Clowney on the front line. Cleveland on paper looks good. I mean, I think Mitchell Trubisky could do good on that team. Justin Fields will thrive with this team. But Pittsburgh defense is lacking a little bit of its sharpness with TJ Watt out. Trubisky doesn't like it, throw anything deeper than 10 yards, and Najee Harris is not really stepping up to the plate, it seems like. They are talented there. There won't be grumblings to get Kenny Pickett in. I think I saw on Get Up where they're saying, no, you might see Mason Rudolph before you see Kenny Pickett. Because that offensive line for the Steelers is a mess, and why throw your rookie quarterback in there and possibly get injured and be gone for the season anyways. Right now, Cleveland's favored by 4.5. I think it's going to be a little bit closer than 4, just because it's Cleveland. That's to keep things interesting. But I think the Browns will probably edge out the victory, probably by a field goal, and I'll give the Browns the slight edge in going 2-1. Then we head off to Sunday, where the Houston Texans will come to Soldier Field to take on Chicago Bears, and Lovie Smith returns to Chicago as a head coach. Remember, he was a head coach when they went to the Super Bowl with Urlacher and Charles Tillman and Lance Briggs, all in that defense that was a wrecking crew and stumbled and lost to the Colts. I'm still bitter about. And Mills is quietly developed into some type of a decent quarterback. I mean, he's just consistent. I mean, he has over 417 yards and 2 touchdowns in 2 games, which is not a whole heck of a lot, especially since he went after Denver and Indianapolis and tied and gave Denver all they can handle. With this one, I think Roquan Smith will be more of a factor for the Bears. I think Justin Fields should do better against Houston. And Montgomery should be more of a factor in this game as well. Chicago's favored by 2.5. Yeah, it's going to be a close matchup just because it's two teams that are just not, I think, where they want to be at. So I'm going to go with the hometown Bears. Yeah, I know I'm a Bears fan, so but this is the first time I actually picked them. So remember that. But I'll go with the Bears at home against the Texans. And a pair of 0-2 clubs clash in Music City, where the Titans play host to the Las Vegas Raiders. And the experiment in Las Vegas has not really paid off yet. Derek Carr and Devontae Adams have yet to really rekindle their bromance they had in Fresno State on the pro level yet. I mean, it's only for 153 yards, 2 touchdowns, and it's just something's not off. I mean, they had that collapse against Arizona, and they just couldn't hang to the ball, which led to them losing that game. Tennessee's just looked out of place, especially against Buffalo. They were just got decimated. Derrick Henry has yet to really establish himself once again as the king. Tannehill's kind of looked off as well, maybe because he lost his star receiver this offseason. So there are a lot of question marks on the Tennessee side. There are questions on Vegas. They do have the answers, but they haven't solved the question yet. I think once they solve the equation and get that Raiders team going, they should make a decent run. I'm thinking this one is where they'll actually go into Nashville and escape with a victory. Right now they're favored by 2. It's going to be that close, just kind of how these two teams are right now. We head north a little bit into Indianapolis, where the Colts will play host to the Chiefs. Now the Colts, Justin Carson Wentz, after one season when he failed to win in Jacksonville to get into the playoffs, bringing Matt Ryan, who was yet to win in his as an Indianapolis Colt. He lost last week to Jacksonville, which I called. Tied Houston in week 1, which no one saw that one coming. And it's just Patrick Mahomes is like Tyreek who. He has spread the ball out to so many different targets, you don't know who to concentrate on. Kelsey is still his primary, but he has so many other targets he throws to that it's hard to really take away one. You're going to leave another one open. And he's still doing Patrick Mahomes throws where he ended up, if you watched that game last week against the Chargers, where he ended up throwing it sidearmed underneath the arms of defenders into a Kansas City receiver, ended up scoring. I think it was Pringle. So it's right now, Kansas City is just all over fire. It's the defense still is a question mark. Even though they have stepped up quite a few games here and there, but they still give up way too much. So I think Indianapolis will actually make it more of a game than many might think. Because right now, Kansas City, time this video, they're favored by 5.5. I think it will be like a 6-point win anyways. Just because it's right now Indianapolis, it's just they can't seem to find themselves, and they keep shooting themselves in the foot. But I will say with Kansas City, and down to South Beach, where the Dolphins will play host to the Bills. The Dolphins had a huge comeback victory against the Ravens, and Tua was just throwing to Tyreek Hill and Waddle at will. I mean, he tied the franchise mark for most passing touchdowns, tying with Greasy and Marino, 2 Hall of Famers in the Miami organization. Part of that was due to how the defense was playing the receivers for Miami, giving them like a 10-yard cushion and backpedaling and letting Tyreek Hill go full sprint. I mean, you're not going. Why are you going to give the fastest man on the field a head start? It ain't going to work. And the Bills secondary is a little banged up as well, so that could also play in a factor. But some things you got to watch out for on the Bills defense is Von Miller. He's going to be probably more times in the backfield than Tua is, and that's saying a lot since Tua's the quarterback. And then on the other side, you still have Stephon Diggs and Allen as the dynamic duo for the Bills offense. Because if Josh Allen doesn't throw it to Diggs, he runs it, and he runs like he's a running back. So the Miami defense is going to have their hands full. And I think one of the few things that's going to help them out is it's playing in Miami. So it's going to be a little more humid, a little bit more humid than what Buffalo is going to be used to. So it's going to be a deciding factor. Probably help fatigue some of the players. So that'll be a factor with Miami. And the Bills are not going to win every game. I did predict them to go 13-4, so I did predict them to lose some games, and I actually predicted them to lose this week in Miami. But I also thought Miami would be 1-1 this week, so hey. But I think Miami is going to squeak out the victory here against the Bills. Right now, Buffalo is favored by 6. I think it's going to be a 3-point victory for Miami. I think Miami might be able to squeak this one out, but it's going to be close. And then we head to the snow crawler over there in Minneapolis at US Bank Stadium as the Vikings will play host of division rival Detroit Lions. Minnesota last week just laid an egg in Philly. Pretty cousin-esque of them. And Detroit, once again, racked up 30-plus points. Swift has just been tearing it up. He's averaging 100 yards a game, which is going to be hard to defend against. Now, I don't think the Detroit defense will do the same thing what Philadelphia did against Jefferson. So Jefferson should be more of a factor this game. Delvin Cook should be more of a factor. So I think the Minnesota offense will get back into their form, and the Minnesota defense should be able to have some answers for Detroit against Jared Goff. And it's just one of these games, I think, going back and forth that with this being a rivalry game and all this, I did in my preseason, when I did everything, I did have Minnesota going 1-1, beating Green Bay, losing Philly. And having beaten Detroit here, I think they'll get back on the form, get back to where they need to be, and start performing a little bit better. But expect this from Cousins every so often. He will have one of those games. Is like, what are you doing? It's just how it is. I mean, when he's good, he's good. But when he's bad, he's bad. And I think against Detroit, he's going to be balanced and just good enough to win. I think that's what's going to be right now. Minnesota, like I said, Minnesota's favored by 6. I think it'll be closer. I think it might be a 3-point win, and Minnesota will have to come back to win it. Then we head to Foxborough, where we have the Ravens coming to town, and the Ravens defensively just gave up against Miami. They just let Miami just run amok on them. I guess they're trying to play prevent defense, and they didn't prevent anything except for them winning. They went to that way too early. They weren't hitting Tua. They weren't going after Waddle at all. So they just let Tua enough time to chuck it down the field and have those guys play street ball. Now you're going to take on New England with Matt Jones. It's hard to really pinpoint to how this Patriot team is, because they did win last week, which is I don't think they were supposed to, because they went to Pittsburgh and just took it to them. And they have tendencies to do that, but I think Baltimore is just a little bit better than that. Their secondary should actually improve after watching the videotape and getting embarrassed by the coaching staff and the rest of the players that, you're the reason why we lost this game. You better, step up and do your job. And I really think that Baltimore's going to find a way to come back and get Lamar Jackson back on the winning ways. Then we head down to MetLife as the Jets play host to the Bengals, and the Bengals look like the Bungles of old. That offensive line that's supposed to have been fixed is broken. Burrow is just anticipating hits, and he's getting hit, and he's already sacked like 12 times already this season. I mean, it's just ridiculous how many times he is getting hit in the backfield. And he's not getting hit. He's forcing the ball, throwing the ball too early, anticipating a hit that never comes. So, and Flacco showcased that he was the Flacco of old and led the Jets on a miraculous comeback in Cleveland. I went back and forth on this one. I really did because Cincinnati should be better than this. I think right now Cincinnati's kind of looking at this game as a must-win for them because if they don't get that win, they're going for the 0-3, and their chances for any type of postseason activity could be derailed if they don't pick up the W here. But I also had them already being 2-0 at this point. So with that happening, and Cincinnati is favored by 5. I'm sorry. Have you watched Cincinnati play? The way they went after, what way Dallas handled them is like phenomenal. But just think that the Jets' defensive front is not the same as the Dallas. So Burrow should be able to have the opportunity to get rid of the ball, maybe do a little bit more running, kind of help have him focus on the run, focus on Mixon first, and then Burrow have the time to throw to Chase and to Higgins. But I think Cincinnati will pull off the win against the Jets, but it's probably going to be by 3. But I can also see the Jets winning this one, so this one definitely I can see go either way. And then the Eagles are heading down to the nation's capital to take on the Commanders. Carson Wentz has revitalized his career, even though he's 1-1, but he does have 650 yards passing with 7 touchdowns. So Washington looks pretty poised, but so does Philadelphia. Because if Tua doesn't get you in the air, he gets you on the ground. Because he had all the touchdowns for Philadelphia, 3-1, and ran for 2. And it's just one of those games that I can also see Washington pulling the upset here, just because it is a rivalry game between these two, and you never know what's going to happen when you get rivals together. For this one, I did think that the Eagles at this point was going to be like 1-1, but I'm going to go with Philadelphia on this one, winning in Washington. But I have a feeling they'll lose to Washington when they come into Philadelphia. That's just how these rivalry games go. You expect the home team to win the road team, so I'm taking Philadelphia in this one. Right now, they're favored by 6.5. I think it's generous. I really do. With these two, it's going to be a rivalry game. It's going to be a lot closer. But I think it's going to be definitely Philadelphia, probably by 4. And then the Saints, we head into Carolina. Carolina right now is just a mess. Baker Mayfield has proven why the Browns never did anything. McCaffrey's only had 1 touchdown in 2 games. The Saints, last week, the defense held up, but Jameis Winston proved that he was the Jameis Winston of old, making mistakes, and pretty much cost them the game. So I think the Saints are going to look at this one as, no, we have to come in here. We have to win this one. And as much as I want to go with Carolina in this one, right now, I don't see anything that favors Carolina. I mean, they should have beat Cleveland. But they fell apart there. And since then, Baker couldn't beat his former team, it's not the same. The Saints defense is a lot better. I think they'll get into the backfield. They'll disrupt Baker Mayfield. And once you disrupt him and get him flustered, that's it. You take him out of his game. And I think New Orleans will be able to squeak out. Right now, they're favored by 3. I think it's going to be like that. I think the Saints will go into Charlotte and escape with the victory. The Jacksonville Jaguars have to L.A. take on the L.A. Chargers in a very unique showdown between 2 1-1 teams. Some people were kind of surprised that Jacksonville beat Indianapolis. I called it. But I think there's just too much defense, talent on the Chargers team for Trevor Lawrence to overcome. The Jaguars defense is not going to be enough. I think it still will be kind of a shootout between the two, but Herbert's going to be a little bit better. Right now, LA's favored by 7. I think it's going to be, I kind of agree with that one, but yeah, I will say the Chargers beat the Jaguars. Then the Rams will head out to Glendale, Arizona to take on the Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals had that huge comeback win against the Raiders in overtime last week. And remember, last year, the Rams were heavily favored heading into Arizona and getting beat. So I have a feeling right now the Rams are favored by 3.5 right now. And the Cardinals look like for that second half game against Vegas, they finally found themselves right where they need to be. So I will go Arizona knocking off the Rams, and we kind of go from there. All right, next up is going to be Atlanta visiting Seattle. Right now, the line on this one is even, so it's pretty much a pick 'em game. And it's really hard to really figure out which team is going to show up for either side, really. Because Seattle, when they hosted Russell Wilson, showed up. Geno Smith actually balled and was making incredible throws, and Seattle was able to beat Denver in that one. But then they go down to San Francisco and couldn't stop Jimmy G from winning that game. Then Atlanta had New Orleans beat, but then gave it up, and then turn around when the Rams are having them beat, start coming back against them. So are we going to get the combination for those two games with Atlanta where they were leading against the Saints, and then the second half version of the Falcons that were coming back against the Rams, and put those two together? I mean, once the Atlanta figures out their team, they should win a few games here and there. But I think Seattle defense is slightly better because, once again, they kind of stumbled these 49ers. They stumbled Denver. I think they'll do the same thing with Atlanta, even though Mariota is doing quite well in his resurrection, but he only has 2 touchdowns. The Swiss Army knife that is known as Cordell Patterson, 1 rushing touchdown. So Atlanta has weapons, but I think Seattle has found ways to kind of jettison some of the older contracts, bring an influx of other players to help revitalize his team. I think it's more of a rebuilding year. I have a feeling they're drafting the quarterback next year. Maybe they win the Jimmy G sweepstakes. Who knows? But I think for this one, I actually went with Seattle on this one, even though I wanted to go with Atlanta. I wanted to give Atlanta that first win of the season. I think that, for Atlanta, I think they're on the cusp of doing something. I just don't think it's going to be this game. I didn't really have much hope with Atlanta anyways. I think preseason-wise, I had them winning this game one and actually winning the beginning of the season, then falling towards the end. But I think this time around, I think they're going to stumble at the beginning of the season, win in the middle, and fall at the end. It's just the Atlanta way. But yeah, Seattle, like I said, it's even, so take your pick. Then Green Bay, we head down to Tampa Bay, and the battle of Rodgers and Brady, 2 of the greatest quarterbacks right now. And both teams have issues. Both of them have offensive line issues. Aaron Rodgers showed that last week with Chicago, actually got him a couple of times, forced a couple fumbles. Brady was getting frustrated by the Saints defense last week, destroying Surface Pros, and then enticing Lattimore to get into a fight. And Lattimore obliged, so did Mike Evans, so now he lost his best receiver. The other a couple other receivers that he has are questionable. So the Tampa Bay doesn't have receivers that Brady trust. Fournette's going to be a focal point of the Buccaneers' offense. Green Bay, maybe Lazard plays, maybe not. But that's about the only receiver that Aaron Rodgers can trust. And then he also had Aaron Jones in the backfield that he can utilize, which they did quite a bit extensively against Chicago, use him in the running and passing attack. So you might see that, but I think Tampa Bay's defense is going to be a factor. Plus, you're also playing in Tampa Bay, so you got to take in the weather factor as well. And Aaron Rodgers doesn't do well in Florida. It's one of these right now. This one's also even. And I can see why. There's just so many things to like about each team and so many things you point out is wrong with these teams. And it's really hard to really kind of go, okay, where do we go with this one and who's going to win? Brady right now is a 3-1 against Rodgers, including being 2-0 right now with Tampa Bay. But because of Tampa Bay's defense, I'm taking the Buccaneers in this one. But Aaron Rodgers can prove me wrong as well, and he always does. It's just what he does against me, because I'm a Bears fan. He does like Bears fans. I don't know. just throwing stuff out, but I don't know. I don't see him. I don't see either quarterback really making that many mistakes. I think there will be interceptions, yes, um, but they're going to be substantial. He won't throw multiple picks a game, but I think Aaron Rodgers probably will cough up the ball more. But it's more through fumbles and interceptions, and I think that's what's going to help Tampa Bay actually edge out Green Bay. And then Sunday night, you get the 49ers heading to Mile High, take on the Broncos, and right now the Broncos offense is in disarray. 32 points in 2 games. I think that people thought they were going to put up on Seattle in week 1 or week 2 against Houston. This team has not been gelling well. Hackett may not have been the good choice as head coach because he's supposed to bring in Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers decided to stay in Green Bay because I think Aaron Rodgers knew that Hackett couldn't hack it. There's been rumors about Russell Wilson's ability to be a good teammate. They came out of Seattle. I don't know. There's just too many things right now going wrong in Denver, and I had high hopes for the Broncos, probably because of the persona of Russell Wilson and what he does. I mean, he looked like he's reinvented himself, at least in the public eye, but hasn't translated well on the field yet. I don't know if he's going to need another game or two to really develop those type of connections and really gel and get this team going. But now Jimmy G's coming to town with his 49ers. He's back in charge of that offense. He knows all so well. The team knows him all too well. Remember, he's led this 49ers team to 2 NFC championships, including a Super Bowl bid. So this is a team that works well together, that knows each other, and is a veteran core. And the Denver, where the team's trying to re-identify itself. Right now, San Francisco favored by 1.5. I think it's going to be that close. Because I do think Russell Wilson will find a way. It's a familiar opponent, so he knows them all too well. So hopefully he finds a way to kind of, get this team sparked up and going. But I think Denver should make this competitive. But Jimmy G is going to come out on top. And then Monday night, a game between NFC East rivals as the 1-1 Dallas Cowboys visit the undefeated New York Giants. Looks like a revitalized Giants team. Sparked by Saquon Barkley, who now has over 236 yards on the ground, but only has 1 TD. That Cowboys front will be an issue for the Giants, but I think they'll be able to do something to kind of go away from Michael Parsons and let Barkley do his thing. And once they do enough of that, then Daniel Jones should be effective enough to make a decent pass attempts. And that's what you really have to do. But Cooper Rush looked very, very confident in this team, and they actually concentrate on the run as well. Right now, the Giants are only favored by 1, and yeah, this is definitely going to be a nice a game going back and forth. But I am going to go with the G-Men on this one. I just have a feeling that they're going to do just enough to stifle Cooper Rush's renaissance this time around in Dallas. But I think Dallas is supposed to get another one of the receivers back this week, so which looks promising for them. But I think the G-Men right now, they just got a different swagger to them. They come to games with a little more confidence, and just they are gelling well. They are playing as a unit, which they haven't never done before. But we'll see what comes out. But Monday night, I'm going to go with the G-Men. They're favored by 1. I think it will be that close. So we'll see the G. I'm saying the G-Men's going to go 3-0. Who saw that one coming? I mean, really. But there you go. There are my picks. Put some doozies out there. Put some question marks out there. There's quite a few games I can see go either way, like the Battle of the Bays. Monday night matchup could go either way. The Battle of the Birds up there in Seattle. I mean, these games are very, very close, and it's kind of hard really to pinpoint which one. But you got to kind of look at little intricacies and dive deeper into the game itself and kind of go, okay, maybe they win this matchup here, and this is how this is going to happen. It's all a guessing game at this point. You never know until they actually play the game, and then you realize how much of a clairvoyant you are or how much of an idiot you are. Right now, I'm the latter. I'm just hoping I do better than 8 losses. Like I said, let me know down below what you think. While you're there, go hit that thumbs up once again. You can share this video with friends and family. It helps promote this channel. Once you subscribe, make sure you hit that bell. I'll let you know next time I post any more content on this channel. And I'll see you next time on Chat Sports Talk.